Daith da, how we doing? Welcome to podcast number 15. I'm actually recording this over Christmas, so I hope you're all having a good Christmas. I'm always reluctant to say, are you having a happy Christmas? Because I know how tough it can be for some people, especially those that have lost a loved one in the last 12 months, and it can be a difficult time. And also, if you lose someone over the Christmas period, that can be very difficult, and you remember it every year. And it's something we as a family did go through quite a few years ago now. My nan, Marion, which was Father's stepmother, she was originally a Solomon from Bodmin. So there might be still a few around that remember her and her family. And she died suddenly on Christmas Eve one year, and that was quite a shock. Didn't expect it at all. Back then, funerals were arranged a lot quicker than they are these days, and we actually had her burial at St. Breoch on New Year's Eve, just a week later. So, but it was a difficult time, you know, being there on Christmas Day, seeing the presents for her and everything. So yeah, we do feel for any of you that loses a loved one over this time. It's a very difficult time of the year. I must admit, as far as the podcasts go, I'm just overwhelmed with all the response. I never thought it would become as popular as it has. I haven't got a clue how many of you have actually streamed it, but for those that have downloaded it, I had a message today, we've had over 7,000 downloads. Which is crazy, really. And I know if I put adverts in and everything, I could make money out of it, but I'm not really interested in that. I'm just doing it just to share me memories, really, and see how far I can get before I run out of material. So I thought this week I'd do something a little bit different, see how it goes. If it works out, it may be an avenue to go down in the future. And It takes me back to when we lived in Glen Road, and Father quite often would pop down the road to see her neighbour Bill Bragg, and Bill and Father, they was very good friends, and Father used to come back. He said, I used to love our conversations because Bill's knowledge of Wadebridge and the area was fantastic, and I know that when Bill sadly passed away, Father always regretted that he never took a tape recorder down just to tape the conversations, because he said now that Bill is gone, all of that knowledge has gone with him, and he always regretted not recording it. So I thought, well, perhaps I'll do something a little bit similar. So what I'm going to do today is do something like that. I'm going to do it with Mother. In hindsight, you wish you'd done things before, and I wish I'd recorded Father, really. And also there's so many characters that I've known growing up that I too could have recorded. Some are still with us today, but perhaps their memories aren't quite as good now as they was. So anyway, I thought I'd crack on, have a go with Mother. She's now 87, still fighting fit. So the conversation could bounce around anywhere, though, because my editing skills, they ain't that good at the minute. So I think we'll just go with the flow. It could be a complete disaster, but here goes. So here I am, up in Bridgeview with Mother. And first of all, I think, Jeannie, I'll ask you about where your family come from.
Mainly it's the Northern area. Mother came from Bethel, and Father came from the Stevens area, I think.
So your mother was a Lockett?
She was a Lockett, and she married Ernest Rickard.
Lovely. And your father's side, would you say St. Stephen's?
Well, they lived the Bethel area as well.
They lived Bethel as well, did they?
And then he got had a sister down Hale.
All right. So spread around a bit.
Yeah. His sister lived down Hale. I think was married to some manager of a tin mine down that area. My father had a brother, Uncle Will, that lived at Bethel. Sisters had down Hale.
And then the Locketts, you say they...
And the Locketts originated from that area anyway. My grandparents had a small old in Bethel.
That was around where the chapel is
Jack, yeah, from the chapel.
Yeah.
Jack Lockett, he was called.
Yeah.
And Gran was called Edith.
Ah, right.
And then they had Mother, which was the eldest.
Right.
Then was Auntie Sybil,
Yeah.
Uncle Leonard, and Uncle Melville.
Lovely.
And they all lived in that area at one time. And then Uncle Leonard had a small holding near Bugle, on the Bugle Road.
What, near Lockengate?
Yeah, Sybil Farm, it was called.
Yeah.
And Uncle Melville, I think he used to drive a coal lorry, heavy transport lorry at one time.
And they moved down Laddock way?
Yeah, and they moved to got a little place down Laddock, where his son also lives.
Yeah. Morley?
And Morley lives there as well, in the small Alden.
And they had the heavy horses?
Oh yes, they used to go in the carnival every year showing they had all they get dressed up with these decorated horses.
Yeah.
They had many prizes for that.
Brilliant.
I didn't like horses very much, because I was kicking the head with horse.
Did it scatty out or no?
Yes, I'd be carried. My brother and I was down by a river, and he threw a stone in the river, and there was two horses in the area, and they frightened the horses, and I went running, and one of the horses came, knocked me over, kicked me in the head, and jumped over me.
Oh, wow.
And then my brother said, oh, we'll go and fetch father. I said, don't leave me here. And I didn't know any more then until, how long after, the doctor was in the room.
Oh,
and how they got me in. So that's what I came from, not having much brains. Yeah, I have several head injuries, really. Mother was left a widow at 26 with 3 children. Monty, Joyce and Doreen. Doreen was 8 months old. He was a butcher and he died of appendicitis, and he was buried on a Boxing Day. So we lived with Mother, who never enjoyed Christmas. She was left with 3 little children under 4.5.
Yes.
And then after 11 years, she married my father.
And then she had you and Uncle Ken?
And she had me on the 8th of April 1935, and my brother Ken on the 9th of September 1936.
And where was you born to?
And I was born at Trevibben Farm, Sinizzi.
Yeah.
And it was a new farm, it was a farm cottage, and it was a new one. I was the first to be born there. And the nurse back in those days had no cars. How they got older, I don't know. But she used to cycle. And I was the first child to be born in that house on April the 8th, 1935.
Because we went out to Trevibben last year, I think, to us to look for it, and it's been scat down now, I think, isn't it?
I outlived that building.
You have?
Then what?
So, what did your father was a farm labourer?
Yeah.
And you used to move around a lot?
Yeah, well, dear old father, we found out after he was coming up to having Parkinson's. And he would anything didn't go his way, he'd get a temper and walk out. Well, then we were out of the house because we lived in a tight cottage. So dear old Mother was spending her life cleaning other people's houses that we went in. And then as soon as she got it looking nice, Father would come in, had a row again, but we realised after that he had this Parkinson's.
Parkinson's, yeah. So
and he didn't work. He's in his early 50s, I think, when he had to give up work.
So can you remember then all the places you lived?
No, too many to remember.
Try and reel off a few.
Oh, Portet, where the bee place is.
Where the old family live, yeah?
Yeah, we lived there. And that time, my eldest brother, Monty, was in the army.
Right.
And I think it was when Joyce, I think she lived in on a farm. We used to have you work in what they called themselves then. And Doreen, I don't know what she was doing then. But Doreen was 12 years older than me.
Yeah.
And
So
I was spoiled.
yeah. You live St. Kew way?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, we lived at St. Maitland.
Right.
Oh, it's St. Kew first, wasn't it? That's right. Then we went to St. Kew in a place called Peppermint Cottage.
Yeah, which is still there, and it's got a witch on the wall
Yeah,
outside.
that's me left behind.
I say, was that after you? Yeah. And Peppermint, and then you went to St. Maven then, did he? Or?
Yeah, well, yeah, I lived Peppermint. I think I left school when we was at Peppermint, and I went to work at the egg depot.
Because didn't you live at Benbowl?
Yeah, Benbowl Cottage. I lived there for a while.
And then you said that you was St. Maben, but didn't you say then you moved St. Kew, but you walked to school?
Well, yeah, I was at St. Maven school, which I enjoyed. I'd never liked school, but I did like St. Maven. And we moved to St. Kew, and I think I had about a year left. So we used to walk from St. Kew to St. Maven to school every day.
Ah, right.
It was a lovely little school at St. Maven. I got the light school, and it's too late.
Yeah.
What next?
Well, Newlyn East, do you say you lived?
Oh, yeah, we lived there. That was when my nephew Michael was born at Cargill, Newlyn East.
Yeah.
Father worked on a farm there.
And St. Merron?
Yeah, we lived at the cottage of St. Merron, which was near there was a Armour Air Force place just up the road, Army Barrett, no, just prisoner of wars.
All right.
And there was one that dear old chap, mother took pity on him. He used to come in to see us, one of the prisoners of wars, which he wasn't supposed to do, really.
You could get in trouble for this, mind. No, joking.
And he used to bring in lovely big slab cakes for us and all from their canteen.
All right.
But mother felt really sorry, but she said, I got a boy of my own that's in the forces. And, yeah, he used to come in there quite a bit. I don't know where we went from St. Merron.
Where was you two at St. Merron?
The cottage, as it was called.
Because did Monty work at Carnevis?
Yes, he worked at, yeah. And he lived at Carnevis.
Yeah.
They were called Rogers.
That's right, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers, yeah.
Yeah.
And she married Mr. Brewer, and the Brewers are still there now.
Oh, yeah, they are, I think, yeah. And they had a daughter called Pat that I used to play with.
Yeah. And their boy Roger was in my year at school. You ended up out Outlands?
Yeah, must have gone to, it was a lovely place where you were there, but it was so isolated. It was about nearly a mile up the railway line towards Wentford.
Yeah, so if you leave the Burr Arms, the house is still there now.
Yeah, you go down the bottom and turn right and go up a lane.
And
the railway went by there. They went for the...
the clay work?
Yeah, they used to got past our gate.
Right.
We had no road right up to the house. We had to park the car. We didn't have a car, but anybody that came had to park at the lane and walk up the railway line to our place. And dear old mother used to go bombing shopping, and she would come home, get to Dunmere, and very often we see the train stopping outside, mother jumping out.
Well, I never.
They used to bring her up with her shopping as they went to Wentford.
And there was just a little tiny track next to the railway line, was there?
Yeah, just like a little path. And all our grocery stuff was left at Mrs. Cowell's at Dunmere. And I used to pick it up in the evenings and bring it home when I went home from work. And one night, I was added on my handlebars, milk and everything. I ate a sleeper. All the lot went in over the bank.
Oh, hang.
But it was a lovely place to live, but we had no drinking water indoors. We had to cross the railway line, go down a path, all open well, which we won't be allowed to have now. And then for mother doing her washing and different things, we had a stream at the bottom of the garden.
All right.
But we had the house really was one big house, but it was made into two.
Yeah. And I remember talking to Tara once, because Tara used to go out drinking a bit with Uncle Ken.
Yes.
And he said that after they'd had a few beers at night time, they'd ride their motorbikes up by the side of the line.
I know.
And he said the next morning when we come in the daylight, he said, well, you wouldn't have done it. He said it was so narrow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was just like a little path. No, it was just a bank. There was no hedges or anything there.
No.
And it was a lovely place to live once you got there, but it was very, very lonely. I didn't go out much in those days because, well, you couldn't get anywhere.
No.
We also lived in Nancy Golden for a while.
Yeah.
And where else did I say?
Tregaddock, you said, didn't you?
Tregaddock, St Mabon.
Ah, yeah.
And we used to walk. We had from Tregaddock to St Mabon to school.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Peppermint Cottage.
Yeah.
Which was near. Have we done that?
We've done that, yeah. No, that's good. So where did he go to work first when you left school then?
Oh, well, my sister lived over St Austell.
Is that Joyce?
Yeah, Sister Joyce. And there was somebody who wanted somebody to help in their home. And I went there for a while to live with Joyce, but I got homesick and wanted to go home.
Right.
So I didn't go in there very long. And then I worked at Charlotte Manor for a while.
Right.
But I found it was long, lonely road, and I didn't like it there at all. So I wasn't there very long.
Right.
And after that, I think the next place was Cornish Egg Producers.
Was that before St Lawrence's?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, I was at St Lawrence's when I was married, wasn't I?
Ah, right. I don't know. So locally, it was known as Egg Depot.
Cornish Egg Producers.
Yeah, known as Egg. And how long did you work there?
8 years.
Right. And that was a load of staff working there. It was quite a big concern, wasn't
Yeah, it was. But yeah, the biggest around in those days. And there was a certain young man there called Ronald John Bray.
All right. Nice chap.
I didn't like him to start with. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, dear. So what was your job there then? At the Egg Depot?
Oh, packing eggs.
All right.
They would come, they go to the machine, get weighed, and then after you was promoted, I went to, they used to call them candler, testing eggs.
All right.
And we boxed them up, 30 dozen in a box.
Right.
Then they go off on a Toneville lorry all over the place. But I worked there for 8 years.
And that was in Glen Road?
Yeah, that's right.
Where was you living to then? Because you weren't married then?
No, Dunmere. I used to catch the train in.
All right.
Used to be a train at Dunmere then.
Yeah.
And I used to go on that one every day.
And then you went to St Lawrence's after that, you say, to work?
Yeah, I went to St Lawrence's. But where did I meet Ron? It was at Egg Depot.
He was at Egg Depot, wasn't he?
Yeah, I met the man of my life.
So how long was he at St Lawrence's then?
Oh, about 4 years, I think. I worked in the kitchen there. I hated every hour I was in the place.
Oh, who did he work with?
Oh, my goodness, I forget her name. Well, one of my friends, Mavis, she was in the office at the Egg Depot.
Mavis Pryor, was she called back then?
Yeah, she lived at Nanstallen.
Yeah.
And her mother was my second mother.
Yeah.
They was wonderful people, and I'm still friends with Mavis now.
And she married Roy. And he's are they my godparents?
Yeah, she married Roy Julian from Roach.
Oh, yeah.
And I was best bridesmaid at their wedding. And they up my hours, and Roy was the best man.
Yeah. So then you got married when you was...
And then we got married in 1962.
Yeah.
In Bodmin. And at that time, Ron's auntie had number 1 Glen Road.
That was Lil.
Aunt Lil.
So Lil was married to Sam Rillstone.
Yep.
And he was the manager of the Egg Depot at the time.
Yeah, they're just down the road from number 1 Glen Road.
Yeah. And Lil was Odge. That was her maiden name.
She was Odge from... Was up...
well, they live at Boulogne now,
Boulogne way, yeah.
But Jimmy looked in the family tree, and before that, they was her like Egloseo and that.
Yeah, I think they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, father wasn't the only child, though, was he? He had a little brother?
After many years, he had a little brother, John.
John Bray, yeah.
But he died at 4.5 with leukemia. The following year, Ron's mother died.
And she was Violet?
And she was Violet Hodge.
Yeah.
And Ron's father lived in Market Street in Bodmin.
And they both buried up Bodmin Cemetery, and them in front of each other.
Are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Ron had it hard, do you remember?
Yeah, he certainly did. Because Was he away doing his national service?
Yeah, he went.
When?
For 2 years. But then that's the time I didn't like him.
Huh. Was that when John died or his mum died then? Because when you away when one of them died?
Yes, he was home compassionately. His mother, I think that might have been.
Yeah.
But his mother died quite young, really.
She did, didn't she?
Yeah.
So how long was you and Father married then?
58 or 59 years. Married in 62. And he died last year.
2021, yeah. And 2 wonderful children.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And now you've got a few more generations. Got a few grandchildren and
great-grandchildren.
2 great-grandchildren, haven't we? Jessie and Ollie.
Yep.
Yeah. The years go on by, don't they?
Yeah, too fast.
Well, I think we'll leave it there for today, Mother, because then we'll have more stuff to talk about in future podcasts, hopefully, if I'm still here. If you're still here and if people liked all the stuff you've been talking about.
Oh, I think they will.
I'm sure they will. So
and I got lots of lovely friends.
Proper job. So say goodbye to everybody for now.
Goodbye, everybody.
Right on. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of Mother talking about her past and some of her family. And coincidentally, one of my cousins, well, second cousin, Julia, she was a Scantlebury from Bodmin. She actually got in touch this week with a bit more information about our family tree on Mother's side. And I got to concentrate here because the information she gave me was fantastic, really. Edith Mary Wolfe, and that was WOOLF, was my great-gran, and she married John Lockett. And my great-great-granddad was Francis Wolfe, and he married Grace Eddy, and she was from Lelant. So I know Mother said that on her side, a lot of her family come from down west. And I can remember once she took me to one side and she said, David, I've got some news I ought to tell you, and that is that not all of our family actually come from Cornwall. So I was bracing myself, thinking, oh, crumbs, is she going to mention Devon here or somewhere else? But she said, some of my family, and I'm sure she said that was on the Wolf side, actually come from the Isles of Scilly. Well, I was quite happy with that. I didn't mind that at all. Now, I think the most disturbing thing for me, out of the fact that we're connected and related to the Eddies from down west, is that I might actually now be related to Andrew Eddy, which is quite a frightening thought. I did speak to Andrew because I know that his family was from down west and they actually come from Sancreed, he said. So that's only about 10 miles away from Lelant. So I don't know, it is a bit worrying. But Andrew said that his branch of the Eddies actually emigrated up here to North Cornwall at about the 1900s. And I think it took them 2 days and they come up by horse and cart. So there we are. But if Andrew is related to me, well, at least now that does explain his good looks anyway. So I think that's it for this week. I hope you all have a good week and I'll speak again soon. Wish you well. Do Guinness.